Good afternoon, everyone.
You're not supposed to hear it though.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Brian Hara. Here at TU, I serve as Director of Inclusive Excellence, Education, and Support within the Office of Inclusion. What?
Right. Thank you for that, Brian, and thank you everyone for being here. Let me add just briefly a couple of things. Too high, should I? The one who okay.
I think I have a mic too.
you have a mic
So
too?
yeah, you can
All
put
right.
yours as high as you'd
All
like.
right, you get your own mic.
All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to dive in and provide a little bit of history. If you would like to,
Dr. Jackie.
Dr. Jackie, you can
please,
join if
we
you'd
got
like.
something for you. You're fine. No worries. We'll be informal. It's our last panelist. Thank you. I'm glad you found us.
Yes.
No, it's a very descriptive name.
It is hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, right. Oh.
All right, well. So as Brian mentioned, this project really started off with collaboration at its heart. So when I started, I believe at my welcome party, about a week into being at TU, Christian attended and sidled up and said, I would really like to talk to you about internships and potential collaborations. So our partnership has gone back to the beginning. And in 2017, I had the opportunity to start working with Brian to think about how we could mobilize our history, our local context, as a way to engage our community more with understanding these more challenging concepts like diversity and inclusion. Understanding that, I mean, as if any of you were at yesterday's faculty symposium, the idea of using your local context as a jumping off point to really engage students and help them connect with some of these larger, perhaps more complex topics. So it's become a much larger project, obviously. And I will say on Friday, Azaria and I are both being included in a panel and poster presentation at Goucher College that's also talking about similar projects.
So I think let's go to the next one.
Let's go to the next one, yeah.
Origins enough. So as Brian suggested, and Ashton, I think we're up to 7 total people. That might be right. Is thinking about what do we already know about the history of college in particular. The things that Ashley
And I'll just say, I mean, these research assistants, typically when we think about the archives, we think of history and old stuff, but our research assistants have come from all disciplines across campus. So women's studies, communication studies, history, the arts, psychology. It's been interesting to see different people's perspectives and what they bring to the project.
So one of the first things we did was research, right? Materials together, I think. Yeah. And essentially one of our goals is to create a set of resources and
And so to talk just briefly about some of the projects and the resources that have come out, one is a primary source list. So we have over 1,000 records that we have identified within our collections, identifying different topics, themes, points in history that relate to diversity and inclusion and equity. But this research has also shown us where the gaps are, where we don't have a lot of information, where voices have been silenced. And so that was a jumping off point for us to start building out the resources that we can through connecting with our community members and collecting oral histories. So one of our panelists, Alan, was one of the first student researchers that was bold enough to reach out to our first oral history participant. So some of you may have been at the event earlier this year honoring Whitney LeBlanc, who is our first Black faculty member on campus. Sadly, we lost him about a year ago. So, I mean, these people, these community members, aren't always going to be around. So the more that we can reach out and build those relationships again and capture those pieces of history, the richer that our collections and our community will be.
One of the other things that has in a second or third day. Have learned that history of the people that came before. We've done it maybe 5 or 6 times now, knowing not just about how to do historical research.
I think that might be the
I think that
one.
might be it.
Yeah.
Okay, so our plan for the time that we had to up here for us, some of our student researchers, and we're going to move forward. And she
All right, and I have the pleasure of introducing our alumni. So Miss Linda Morris graduated from Towson State University in 1969. She spent her entire career in public service. After working at the Baltimore City Department of Social Services, serving families on public assistance, Linda left Baltimore to work for the federal government in the field of equal employment opportunity. During her federal tenure, she worked at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Patent and Trademark Office, and she retired as the EEO Complaints Branch Manager for the National Institutes of Health in 2003. Linda began freelance writing in the mid-1970s, and her work appeared in Essence and Baltimore Magazine. She's the author of Cherry Hill, Raising Successful Black Children in Jim Crow Baltimore, which was published in 2018 and is available in the TU bookstore if you are all heading to the Union after this. She is currently working on a similar book about Black families in Turner Station and Sparrows Point between World War II and the late 1960s when Baltimore was an industrial giant. Dr. Jacqueline L. Banks came to Towson from Wacomico County, Maryland in 1973, financed by a 4-year academic scholarship from Campbell Soup Company. She became involved in campus life immediately by joining the Black Student Union and becoming a cheerleader. 2 years later, she made history as a charter member of Mu chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, responsible for membership forever changing the cultural campus life at Towson with the introduction of the Divine Seven Black Greek organizations. Dr. Jackie B. has enjoyed a life of community service, civil and social justice activism that was fueled here at Towson University that resulted in her being a political appointee of the Ehrlich Steel administration. Currently, she is engaged in projects designed to improve the self-esteem of Black girls by using academics and the arts that include an interactive online learning platform. She is an award-winning author and publisher of a children's book that is based on school integration that uses mermaids to share the experience. Additional books are slated for publication this year. She has been a voice for change to improve the lives of children and their families. And our last panelist is Edna Primrose. She is the founder and president of Differenza LLC. A 1984 graduate of TU, she has over 20 years of executive expertise, leading comprehensive programs in organizational management, workforce development, and community development in the public and private sectors. During her tenure at a federal, as a federal senior executive, she served in administrator and chief operating officer positions in the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Labor for multi-billion-dollar programs in youth education, water infrastructure, public-private partnerships, and administrative operations. As a private sector executive in multiple industry sectors, Ms. Primrose managed complex programs, developed leadership and organizational structures for growing companies, and led major policy initiatives. She is a TU alum who serves as president of the TU Foundation Board of Directors and on the College of Business and Economics Advisory Board, as well as environmental boards on water access and equity.
All right, so we've got some questions, though this can be sort of, we can take. So, as a senior researcher,
I'll go first.
Okay.
I wanted to do it, when I came back to the 1970 reunion and met Ashley and Jenna, they had the interview with Mr. LeBlanc, and I was just so thrilled to see him. And because I had taken 3 of his courses, and he talked about his experience here at Towson, and it was not a good experience. And I had not had a good experience. And when I saw him, I felt as though, oh, it wasn't just me. Because as a young person, that's what you think. So that's why I wanted to get involved to validate his experience.
Oh, the mic's on?
They're on it.
Testing, testing,
Might need to make it a little,
Testing,
testing.
yeah.
That's
testing.
on. It's on.
Mine is on. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll talk.
Okay.
And I'm not sharing the mic. I'm just kidding. Well, I participated because you asked. And actually, I was really floored that you asked, and felt that it was definitely an honor to be asked. And so that's why I'm here. But as part of this asking and requesting in this process, is maybe revisit a lot about my time at Towson, and not only and that history, as well as the history that has sprung in my life and has moved me forward beyond Towson. So it's been a very reflective process for me to even to have to participate and think about what was I thinking as a 18-year-old, 19, 20, and what's that impact on me today? As in May, I will be 69 even. So it's Towson has played a tremendous part in, I guess, in who I am, laying the foundation. But yeah, so just because you ask.
Yeah, I would say the same. I was surprised to be asked.
Mhm.
I think when I was at Towson, we weren't really part of the fabric, and so we weren't really heard. So it was really an opportunity to be part of Towson's history, because we are part of Towson's history, and it means a lot that someone is interested to find out what our experiences were. Not only that, even as I think about my own family, it this project has made me be more intentional around writing things down from the older people in my family, where the stories just travel by word of mouth. And so I think that this project has helped me reflect on the rich legacy of Towson, and the fact that even in my small space, I'm a part of it. So it's been really rewarding.
Did a great job.
I would say I have a not a similar story to Alan as to how she got here, but I read the job description actually on Handshake, and I had that same moment of like, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of this. It was an instant, I just knew I really had the same passions. It really aligned with everything I was doing. This was around the time also that I had become the co-director of Towson Freedom School, which is where we really work hard to lift up underrepresented voices. And so as I was really getting into that, this job kind of came around the same time, and I was like, okay, I really should apply. And then I got it, thankfully. And ever since then, I've just been here working. And like Alan said, there's a lot of gaps in the work, and so it made me very motivated to like meet the people that I'm reading about, or like I worked a lot of reading about the minority retention plan, so actually getting to meet the people that it was made for and like hearing how they felt about it. That was really important to me, to actually hear the experiences of the students here. So yeah, that's my answer.
One of the things I want to add.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so I'll ask the next question. In thinking back about your time at Towson, or in thinking about the research that you did for this project, what is something that stands out to you?
Well, for me, it was Allie's compassionate way of interviewing. As I said, I had a bad experience with Towson until 2 years ago. I didn't change my opinion about Towson until 2 years ago when I met Ashley and Gemma. And I came to the night. Well, first of all, I was upset because I didn't like being put in the class of 1970. And I'm so glad you said 1969 in your interview, because that's when I was supposed to have come out. But I came through Towson at a time right when we had the riots in Baltimore. That was my junior year. But when I came to Towson, it was not a welcoming environment. Nobody called me any names, but it was not welcoming. People would get up when Black students came into the student center. If we entered a room, they would leave. So I didn't, and I was just angry with Towson because I I feel as though everything I went through caused me to come out late. And it was very important to me to graduate in 1969 because I had skipped a year in school. So it's a convergence of things. But Allie's compassion in interviewing and how she developed questions that brought this all up for me. It took it out of my system. I had it bottled up here, and it took it out, and it helped me to reconcile all of these events. And so when I left the reunion in 19 when we had it 2 years ago, I I just felt better about Towson because I had been heard.
Mm. My background was I came to Towson in '73, and I never realized the part of this being a part of this project has made me realize that we were the part of what Towson is today. We were part of the change. It was a handful of African American students, Black students, and then all of a sudden it's an influx of us. And I didn't realize until this project that I was part of that influx, the beginning of the change of the whole culture and demographics of this university. So being a part of this has helped in that way. But uh, I came from a rural area, and when we're always the minority. So coming to Towson didn't look any different for me. I came through a school system where I was most times the only Black in my class. So I didn't, so coming to Towson, getting instruction from Black professors, interacting with white administrators, that was part of my norm. So it wasn't anything unusual for me. So I didn't maybe feel the same way. And not that I was accustomed to racism, but I knew what it looked like. I couldn't identify it all the time. I couldn't verbalize it. And part of coming to Towson and becoming part of the Black Student Union was a process that helped me to verbalize all that was happening. It was a great time of cultural shifts in America in 73. You know, we got the Vietnam War going on. We got, you know, our president, you know, I'm innocent, you know, resigning, you know, we have the drug culture, you know, we have, you know, we can vote now at 18. It's, you know, it's legal to drink at 18. We got, you know, the sexual revolution. All this is happening when we hit the ground running at Towson University. It was a lot going on in America during the 70s, the early 70s moving forward. So we survived it, thank God. But it was a lot. But being a part of this project has certainly made me reflect on that. And as my sower has said, also on my own family history. On my own family history, and wanted to make sure that that is properly documented. It started me on another search and in another direction of my family history. I'm so excited to share, but I won't. But some of the information I had found out. But yeah, being a part of this does make you reflect on and now, then and now. So I wouldn't say that I didn't have any feelings of animosity, and maybe part of it is because I still kept the connection to Towson because of the sorority connection. So I've never really left Towson in that sense, and that the Mimu chapter has always been in existence, and it's still in existence today. So to allow me to always have a connection back to Towson that way.
So for me, it's interesting when I think about how I got to Towson, because my mom had gotten divorced when I was young. So we lived in different parts of Prince George's County. And the way that I put it is that she kept moving us to better neighborhoods to help change the trajectory of our lives. So ultimately, right before 6th grade, I ended up in Bowie, Maryland, and I lived there until my second year in college at Towson. So I wouldn't even have thought of going to college, or I didn't have any role models. I'm the first one in my family not only to go to college, but also to graduate from college. So it would not have necessarily occurred to me. But being in Bowie was awesome because it opened up so many resources and all kinds of cool things. A lot of things I couldn't afford to do, but it was pivotal for my education, and I made a lot of lifelong friends. Now, the thing about Bowie is that it was a Levittown community. And if you know anything about these planned communities that were built by Levitt, they were also heavily segregated. So I was one of 4 or 5 Black families that actually lived in Bowie. The other African-American students that went to Bowie were bussed in. So there was a whole divide between people who lived in Bowie and people who didn't. And as a Black person who lived in Bowie, I straddled both worlds. So I was very comfortable choosing Towson because I was used to being in a majority white environment. Now, the thing that surprised me when I got here is even though it wasn't segregated, it was really segregated. So everybody went to school together, but the white students sat alone, the Black students sat together. Unless you played sports or in a club, you might intermingle, but not really. So for me, it was a rediscovery of my Blackness, if that makes sense, to discover a whole family, a whole community of people that helped me get back in sync with who I am and my family legacy. I think the other thing is that I think that's one of the reasons why we're still very close. I think we were somewhere between 3 and 8% of Towson's population when I was here. That there were a lot of commuter students. But people didn't ask our opinion. We weren't really included. We had the Black Student Union. I was very active in that. But in terms of mainstream Towson, I was a pom-pom my first year. I will say that. But mainstream, we were not really included. And I think that, to do this project meant a lot to me, to be able to tell my story. I also think about Ms. Barnes and Ms. Harris, the first Black graduates of Towson. And I was there. I know my soror, Jackie, was there. Many people were there when we rededicated the halls to them. And to hear Ms. Harris's, or maybe Ms. Barnes' son, talk about the fact that they started in 1955, the same summer that Emmett Till was murdered.
I was born.
I was just like, wow, I cannot even imagine being the first 3, 4, 5 Black students here. And Towson really only integrated because they forced them to implement the second Brown versus Board of Education. So when you think about that, and I stood, under that tent, and there were, I don't know, 400 or 500 beautiful Black people who graduated from Towson because they started it. So I felt compelled, to do this project. I just cannot tell you how touching it was to be seen that day.
Yeah, I want to share this background. I come from a community of 200 people, like about 100 Black, 100 white, and all the Black people related to me somehow through family or marriage to family. Let me just share that. So when I came to Towson and saw, I just learned last year, 200 Black people in one space, that was a town for me. And I just gravitated towards that and wanted to interact with as many Black people as I could that was, at this level. So I did the reverse. I had no desire to really interact. I'd done all the little high school stuff and student government, all like that, and fitting in. And I didn't have that same desire when I was at Towson to do that. And looking back, I know so I didn't feel that draw to try to fit in, or I didn't even feel excluded in that sense because I was making my own choices. So I was choosing not to be involved in student government, even though I knew it was there. And does that make sense? Yeah, I was just choosing not to do it. But the cheerleading, I could not resist. That was fun. That was fun.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, I would say for me, sorry. I would say for me, this project has also been something that's definitely shaped my undergrad career. And I would say something that's been really important to me as I do this research and I continue to do it is talking to the alumni. It's been like a really important part to me because, when I read the documents and I'm sitting there, all day, it's one thing to read it, but it's a different thing to hear the experience and to actually like look at the person and know the person that was on that paper. It's very different and it kind of like what Alan said, like it kind of hurts sometimes when you listen to these things because it's like the Black students and especially like the 70s and the 80s, they went through so much from so much overt racism. It's also like subconscious racism, like not even, maybe people didn't realize that they were being very discriminatory, but they were being very discriminatory. And it was both students and faculty that I've seen in the archives. And it's like, it shocks me now because as a student now, that's not what I experienced, but it's like the people before me, that's what they experienced. So it's been really important to me to take the time to really like listen to their stories and like after my interview I rewatch it and I do the transcripts and like that part is also very it like allows me to like reflect on what you guys said and take it a little bit more in and it also gives me a chance to like think more about what can I do more to like help stories similar to yours be heard and all the names you guys give me. I'm always appreciative. But yeah, I would say it's been really it's like almost an emotional job, I would say. Like you kind of take it home, but I
Mhm.
really appreciate everything that you guys let me in on. You're wonderful.
Um, one of the things that came out that has been so amazing from bringing Ashley and I, when you think about round out that kind of collection. Um, okay, so question did you ask? What question did we just ask?
Number 3.
Okay, so
Oh, it has meant a whole catharsis for me, to participate and be able to get all of that out of my gut.
Mm.
When I came to, well, the reason I wanted to come to the 1970 reunion was that I got a postcard and it said it was only $50 and it was 2 meals and I love to eat. I said, I'm gonna go. I said, I don't want to be associated with the class of 1970, but I'm gonna go. And of course, I didn't know anybody. And so when I went, um, I was sitting in the car. My sister also went to Towson. She was in the class of 1966, the centennial year.
Mm.
And I have a story about the bell tower that you can ask me later. I went up in the bell tower with the guy, there were 30 of us black students here at the time. And this guy and several of them on work study. And Calvin Jones was charged with ringing the bell 100 times. So I had come that day, it was to my sister's graduation. I was all in white and a nice white roller brim hat. And he said, look, I need somebody. He said, I can ring the bell. He said, but I can't count at the same time. So I need somebody to help me count. And so I said, oh, sure. I didn't think anything of it. And so we went to Stevens Hall and pulled down the steps to go up. And I'm dressed in these little pointed toe shoes, white stockings, white dress, white hat. And I get up there and see how dusty it is going up. And then we get to the last part of it with the rungs on the wall. And I had to take my shoes off because the point of the shoe wouldn't allow me to get a grip. So anyway, I went up, I counted the 100. And so while we're up there, Calvin is saying, wow, he said, and we were making all sorts of Esmeralda and Quasimodo jokes. And so he said, wow, Lady Liberty has nothing on you. You are a vision. I said, oh, wow, that was worth it. So that was the best thing about me coming to Towson. I wasn't going there, but anyway. Somebody else can talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was so interested in stuff.
Oh, I know.
I know. I forgot to Jackie.
so the question was,
Oh, well, you feel seen, you feel valued. Uh, once again had no idea, and you think about it, oh, that our history is not even there in the archives. I didn't even know there were archives. You know what I'm saying? So of course but you don't really think about it or what's in them. And so this, this whole journey of making sure that all the voices of Towson are included is quite remarkable in and of itself. Uh, as we try to, I guess, balance out the journey of what it means to be a university. It's 2024 and we already know where we are, but the journey. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. So a lot of reflection, a lot of reflection, a lot of reflection.
I absolutely agree. It's definitely taken me down memory lane on so many levels. And, you know, you mentioned the communities. We're still a very close knit community. Call ourselves the TU old heads. You know, we had all the good music in the 70s and 80s.
Just like
Um,
this.
and and like
Just
we
like this.
so we had dances every Friday and Saturday in Newell Hall. I'm sure people can't even imagine. Didn't look like Gryffindor. There was a big open space and we had dances every Friday and Saturday. And then sometimes you'd go over to the residence tower for parties, but I'm just glad there was no social media. Um, but we're still really close. So this is like over 40 years, you know, of relationships. So it's awesome. And I pledged Delta Sigma Theta sorority in 1981. And I'm very proud to be a member of the sorority and to be devoted to public service. So at the same time that we rededicated the Barnes and Harris halls, we also had the dedication for the Divine Nine, the historic Black Greek fraternities and sororities memorial that's at Towson. And like you said, when I was here, I was looking at charter members. Now I know my own sorority charter members.
Yeah, thank you.
But not the others. So it was weird for me to see people's names that I went to Towson with. I didn't realize they were just starting that chapter when I was here.
Mhm.
So it really kind of gets you to be more reflective about all the history that was built, that was created, that wasn't recognized or talked about, and again, to be able to feel so valued. And I think that uh, you know, the more people you interview, the more stories you'll get, and just those perspectives. I want to say the other thing is that I became part of the Towson Foundation Board in 2017, and my very good friend Sarah Metzger asked me if I'd be interested in joining the board because she met my friend Gigi and I tagged along, and then she called me a couple weeks later, and I was like, why? Why would I want to join Towson's board? And then I thought, you know, am I going to be part of the change or am I going to sit back and complain? So I decided to join, and it's been really rewarding. I think what makes this project so important is because we see Towson now and we see such a difference. I never thought I would see Towson be a majority minority university ever. I never thought I would be president of the foundation board. And the vibe is great. It feels great to be a part of everything here. We have the coolest students. When you walk on campus, it just feels wonderful and everyone is together. So it means a lot to be part of this project, you know, especially because Towson is being intentional about making things right and then moving forward and making things better.
I would say for me, something actually Miss Enna sent to me during our interview together was me being part of the project is becoming part of the history. that has really stuck with me and kind of shaped how I move forward with the things that I do. With this project, I feel like at first I was thinking, oh, it's just, of course I am highlighting and honoring the stories, but I think something you also just said again was being intentional with it. I think it's really important to be intentional with how I ask the questions, how I, document the histories, what I look at in the archives, how I just do my job really. And I think it's been a really just honor. I'm just very happy and grateful that I got the opportunity to become part of the history and become part of, telling it. Because it's not something that a lot of students. You said seven, so seven students have gone to do what I do, and I'm very grateful that I've been able to become part of the history and not just know it, but actually do something with it.
Well, I think that something that has been very amazing and humbling for me, and I don't know if it affects you as well, is to see our students utilize these resources when they come in for classes or to answer their own personal questions and to understand aspects, voices, things that would not have otherwise been available to them. So to be able to gain inspiration from our alumni, to know that we have accomplished people in our midst, writers and executives and, people that are doing things, they're making history, that allows our current students to see what's possible. To see what leadership went on amongst their peers and to be able to appreciate that they were here as well, right? They have a lot in common, even if they often might feel alone or might feel like they don't know what they're doing as freshmen in their first few days. So thank you all, for being a part of this project and helping pass that forward and continue to enrich the history that we have.
Thank you for doing the
welcome.
project.
Thank you for
Thank
asking.
you.
You
We-
want to take credits?
Yeah, we don't want to hog
Yeah.
all of the
got
question
notes right on.
opportunities.
So-
No pressure.
I feel compelled to say,
Sure.
in listening to Linda particularly, and I hear that pain. I don't, and then based on what I have said, I don't want anyone to think here that I not feel the brunt of racism while a student here at Towson. We all felt that. We all felt that, and in one case, particularly, I remember taking a summer school course in speech. I was a communications major by that time. I had some several changes along the way, but communications major, and I'll never forget that class. And the students, I was the only black student in the class, and the white student came to me and said, "You were the best student in this class. You should get an A." And I knew I was not going to get an A. I knew I was not going to get an A, and sure enough, I got a B. I got a B. And because I knew that particular professor, who's well known, just retired from university not that long ago, was not going to give me that A. And I remember his whole attitude towards me of such disdain. It's the attitude, the nonverbal communication that will come across, that you're not wanted here. Whatever the negative feelings that would come from that. So I just wanted you to know that don't think that because I had a great time as a cheerleader. I was in the sorority and I was a social butterfly. I too lived under that umbrella. We all experienced it. So we're glad that this is where the journey is today, you know, and we're claiming that history. We're not shying away from it because it is part of Towson's history. But look where we are today. So. Yeah.
So,
Wow. Wow, that's a long time. Wow. I probably gave it away. Yes.
Thank you for that.
History is a marvelous teacher. Legacy. Past this way that came to thousands 6 months. I've heard from a lot of people. I've met with a lot of people. Some about the edges topics we're talking about. It's incredibly important channel for me to hear from conversations to have. So I first want to really say how appreciative I am for being in my office about a month ago. So I think I program this week. So I want this conversation part of the program because I think it's part of the legacy that if we ignore, we won't remember. And if we don't remember, so the question I have, if you were to say to me, incredible responsibility I've inherited, but an institution that I've inherited too that has legacy. Talked about the members talking together before too, and I first met you. It was not great. I remember that comment was yesterday. It was only a couple of weeks ago. Tell me, maybe each of you, if there's a lesson that you've learned that you want to make sure that I also have learned without necessarily experiencing, but what that lesson is, so that students here in thousands tomorrow will not have to experience.
I think a lesson that's important is to learn to share our stories and make it conversational without um, assigning blame. Put up front, let young people know when they are telling these stories of the hurt that we're not blaming you, but we have to get it up and out. We have to get it out. And but don't you take it personally, but understand that this happened.
You need to be true to yourself on what you're feeling and thinking. And if it feels uncomfortable, then you need to, as a student, speak up. So I would say on the other end is to truly listen. I found one of the major components of racism is that you think you already know what the other person is thinking and feeling before they say it or whatever. So just truly listening to what people are saying. It may sound minor, but if that person is expressing it, just listen without passing judgment. And if you start to ask questions, you may really find out some, may go on a path that you never even expected that would benefit the university and your performance. So, are you the new president by chance? Well, welcome. Yes, and thank you for being here. That's just really listening. Just want to listen. We have a very engaged Black Alumni Alliance, and I think like Ken Abrams is doing a great job.
Partly the conversation, I think it's
Yes, he's doing a great job, and I would just say, just listen to voices like that, people who represent the people, because he doesn't work in isolation. He does come back and then chat and have conversations with alumni. So
you understand what you're saying. So
mhm.
and I tell people too, and I'm just sort of 50 meetings. I think it's difference between listening and hearing, but the most important thing is
So when I think about the students that are here, I would say surround yourself with good people who will help you speak your truth, and don't be afraid to speak your truth. You know, always stay your authentic selves, be true to yourselves, and when you have something to say, you should say it. And if you have to take somebody with you, your ride or die, you know, your best friend, whatever, then you should do that. Um, so to you, Dr. Ginsburg, first of all, I think you've just hit the ground running as a listener. And I know that you have a rigorous schedule and have been doing that since even before you started here. So I appreciate the fact that you're talking to many groups that are represented as part of the Towson community and really taking the time to listen and learn. So I think that that's the right thing to do, and to be transparent with that. Um, as a leader myself, and working for large organizations where I help to shape the organizational culture, um, I think sometimes also think about how much you can impact the culture, because you know Dr. Schatzel was able to really like literally change the face of Towson, and you bring a lot of richness to the position and a lot of inclusivity. So just continue to be who you are, because I think you're wonderful for Towson. Absolutely.
Stamp of approval.
I need mine. But you're amazing. You're amazing.
Well, I've actually been one of the groups you met with. And so I think just continue doing that. I think, from the meetings I have had with you, you are a good listener. You really do hear like, I think when someone, Miss Linda just said about, just letting us get it out. I think that's like honestly what we do in those meetings. Like a lot of it is just students kind of blurting at you and Dr. Patricia, and just you guys just listen, and I think that really helps us feel heard and not judged or not um put down for our thoughts. I'm not gonna lie, I remember telling Ashley in my first meeting with you, I was very nervous. I was like, I thought I was gonna get like slapped on the wrist type thing. I was like, oh, I'm scared, like I'm not gonna go. But it actually turned out to be like, I feel like a really important conversation that we had. And I walked away feeling a little bit better, and then in the following days, I feel like there was action that came out of that meeting. So I was really impressed by that. And so I think just keep doing what you're doing and keep taking action and listening to the students, and it'll be fine. Yeah.
Hi. All right.
What does PWI stand for?
Predominantly
Thank you.
white
Okay.
institution.
Okay. Oh, take doing from Allie's interview. it's not, it may not be a particular question, but she would ask how it made us feel. Because I did my interview was with my sister Judy, and she did both of us together. Judy had a totally different experience. Judy said she didn't notice anything. She was oblivious to it. And that's why I wanted her to do it, because I wanted a complete picture. But it was more that how she drew the information out. Because some of it I had forgotten. And Judy and I were fussing amongst ourselves while she was doing the interview. But she did an excellent job, and it was just how she managed to get the information.
Um, I would think for me, it was the begin, like just getting started. I was new to the archives. I'm an international studies major, so oh, that's so fun. So like the history part is there, but I never got super into the history part of our major. Um, so coming into the archives, I was completely oblivious to like what I was doing. I had imposter syndrome really bad. I was like, I think Ali said it or Alan said it earlier, like I'm not the right person for this job. I was really like doubting myself. Um, the archives are huge. Like when you go in the back room with all the folders, like I guess I got so overwhelmed. I was like, where do I even start? Like, so just starting honestly is the hardest part for me. Um, it honestly a lot of it's just reading over and over until you find something that really like interests you, where it's like I want to know more. And for me it was like the minority retention plan, and like the study skills center, like things that were made for Black students and how it worked with them. So that was probably like when I started getting really into it over the summer. But the first month I was like really struggling to like find my groove almost. But I think once you get started you'll just find your thing, and then talking to people also makes it a lot better. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's easy. Um, no, seriously. Uh, one year, for one full year, I had a white roommate, Sally. And we lived in the dorm, the high rise building, and her best friend lived in the single room in our quad. So she was able to maintain that relationship. But I was her roommate for a whole year, and I'm going to tell you right now, that was the best year I had academically at Towson, because these girls, these young ladies were straight A students. Straight A students. They were speech pathology majors, and yeah, and that's now the other side to that is, and it was a great year. But I also learned about no dose. What it took to stay up all night so you could get those A's on those exams. But I don't think I've ever shared that before, that I had it for 1 whole year. 1 whole year. I had Sally for a roommate, and it was a great year. It was a great year. Yeah. Yeah. She was from Hagerstown. Oh, I would just maintain that level of academic achievement in college and stay. It was truly, I came from a very strong academic background. Towson, quite honestly, was not academically challenging in that respect because I did have, I came here well prepared, but I wasn't the best student. So that's why I don't fuss too much about what Towson did or did not do. I had to look at myself first also and what I was bringing to the table. And I know that I was not doing my very, very best. Okay. But I grew in other ways. I learned in other ways. I mean, I came from a very rural background, very rural. Here I am in a semi-urban environment all of a sudden. Then when all of the culture shifts in America, it's just like this. So, but the Black Student Union helped to give me voice. What was going on campus, what was going on outside of campus. The leaders of the Black Student Union, I was just so impressed with them and how they were able to verbalize, how they were able to hold their meetings and bring the issues to the table, what was going on, and for us to respond. So I would say just be a better student academically. That's what for myself, because I know what I was capable of.
So I did want to say one thing too about just sort of the historic and systemic racism that sort of set the tone. I was just thinking about just how hard it was for me financially to get through Towson. Every semester, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it, but I did because my mother sacrificed a lot. So I'm thinking about the Pell Grants, and when I went to school, Ronald Reagan became president and it ultimately eliminated them. But the name of that grant was the Other Race Grant. Can you even imagine? That was the name of it.
I got one.
Yeah. Other race grant. I did get them.
Salisbury.
I got him until he obliterated that program, and that's when I had to start getting student loans. So it's really great to see, what we have now. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So what I would tell my 18-year-old self is to stand in your truth and to be open, to say yes, and to have fun. Because I think about times in my classes where I might have been the only Black or the only Black woman, I didn't raise my hand, or I might not have asked a question, or I might not have volunteered for something because I felt intimidated. So just be you, be your fabulous self, be your authentic self. And I was at an event a couple weeks ago in the College of Business. And so we had this great speaker. He was awesome. And so, the students could ask questions. And so there was a, a, a young Black woman sitting behind me who was just kind of going like this. And the person with the microphone never saw her. So they said, one more question. I said, it's her. She's gonna ask the question. So she did. And I said afterwards, I said, girl, raise your hand up and be proud. You belong here. You're supposed to be here. So you raise your hand so everybody sees you. And that's what I would say to my 18-year-old self.
Mhm.
So anyway. Now, I might have become I was a commuter student, and most of there were 30 of us here, and I think maybe 28 of us were commuter students.
Wow.
I only remember one girl living in the dorm, but I think I would change. I would probably, hearing the fun that they had and the sense of community, I probably would have tried to get my parents to let me come as to stay on campus. And the tuition at the time sounds little now, was $100 a semester.
Wow.
But that was so hard for my dad and my mom. They almost had to mortgage the house to get that. So,
Wow.
I think, but I would want to be on campus. Mhm.
I think mine was 2,500, 2,500
A year?
a semester.
I was 1,500 a year. Pay for it all. 1,500 a year. I'm sorry.
I don't have any really. I just can't think of an answer.
Any regrets?
Those are great questions. Thank you.
I got to go to high school in Golden. And then I went to Michigan for college. It was pretty quiet. And I went back, master's degree. It's like, oh, back home again. Things were probably not so city university. I was in Nebraska before PhD, not really. And when I came here, I didn't expect to be back in the East because I did Native American history. I thought, well, I'll be out west somewhere, but I did end up here. And I got to Towson. It was much wider than I ever imagined. And I was like, oh, Maryland's something state. I had to read California. So it's changed a lot. But I was wondering, the question I had for you is that Baltimore is often called as a story of black and white. For understanding the basics of black and white relations, a huge part of it. I was wondering if in your experiences you had any interactions that might be able to share Asian students, cognitive route or whatever, not to speak of them as that, but if there's something in your experience with other minority students that could find in that.
I think it changes from just being your authentic self. You know, you have to be willing to speak up and speak out. And if you're not, then find someone else who will. But you just have to be yourself, and you have to take a strong stand. You know, life is not easy for any of us. So, just be seen and be heard. Don't be invisible and expect things to come about in a way that's better for you. You have to be a participant.
Yeah, my experience coming out of Baltimore City has always had, well, they had the second largest free Black population. So Baltimore City was totally different. I was in integrated schools from the time I went to junior high school. So that's why Towson was such a shock. I did well I was in a 2-year accelerated program and came out with the National Honor Society. I went to Edmondson High School, came out of 900 students, ninth in that class. I get here to Towson and it's like I hit a wall. And I could not understand why. I just didn't understand it. But I would tell minority students that, like you said, you belong. You belong. And so you claim what's yours while you're here. Mhm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And when I think about Bowie, that is probably where I had more interaction with Asian, Latino, gay students. I mean, let's see, I started here in '79, so it was like Saturday Night Fever and Grease and all of that stuff happening. So there was a lot of self-expression. But when I got to Towson, I'm sure that the Asian students and Latino students were in their microcosms as well. So if I didn't have a class with them, I didn't really see them. They didn't come to our parties or dances. We didn't hang out together. And as far as the gay community, yes, I had quite a few gay friends, and we're just a family. We just accepted each other for who we are, who we were at the time, you know? So it was really warm and welcoming.
I would say also they need to, it's okay to have your own support group. We all need support. But be reminded, you want to say, well, if I were to go back and do things over again, would be reminded that you also need to interact and integrate with the larger community.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know I deliberately did not do that and by choice, but I would say to anyone else, don't segregate yourself that way 100%. It's one thing, and it's okay to have a support group, to have an Asian, whatever, to have a Black student union, you need that support. But make sure it's within the realms and interact with the larger community as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say, Dr. Ginsburg and Dr. Anderson, absolutely, just keep creating spaces where people can be together. So that's real important. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was forced. I I did not know anything about. I knew about Towson because my sister was here, but my mother was at Douglas High School, segregated school in Baltimore, and Thurgood Marshall had been a student there. So when Brown versus Board of Education became law, she said, "You all are going to integrated schools," and she made us come to Towson. I wanted to go to the University of Maryland, which I probably would have been more lost. I think the Maryland would have been a disaster for me. But then when I would leave classes here at Towson, I'd go to Morgan for support for my social life. But I was forced to come. She said, "He did this, and you all are going to go."
Go ahead, you go.
A little order here, right? Okay.
Yep, yep.
I it was clearly my mother's decision. I had never heard of Towson University. I had won this academic and national scholarship with Kalamazoo Company, and for 4 years. And my mother, at that time, my father died when I was 14. He raised me, her husband, and she asked for advice from the plant manager, and he recommended Towson for nursing because I started out as a pre-nursing major. And like I said, I had some changes along the way, but I have great admiration for people in the medical field. Let me just say that. But it was my mother's choice. I had never heard of Towson. So because it was a big deal that, I was in the newspaper, I got the scholarship, blah, 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 blah. So people knew I was coming to Towson. And there were already two people we only had two high schools in my county, from the rival high school that were here and knew I was coming. And they made sure that they found me when I came to Towson. They both did successfully graduate from Towson. So, but just, they have nursing, that's where you're going. Okay.
So for me, well, we were really broke, so I knew I had to go in state. And I was a cheerleader through middle school and high school. So I'd been to a lot of the colleges in Maryland for cheerleading camp. And I thought about University of Maryland, but it was too big. And someone mentioned Towson. Some of my friends from Bowie were going to Towson. So I ended up coming to Towson for early decision day and fell in love with it. It just felt right. And I applied and got in. It was the only school I applied to because I just knew I was getting in. And I did. So, so by December or January, I knew where I was going to go, but it felt like the right size. I thought I would get lost at College Park, and like Salisbury or Millersville or some of the others were too small. And it was close enough that I could get a ride home very easily, but far enough that I had to live here.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a few minutes left, so we wanted to make some shameless plugs.
Shameless.
So we are hiring for the summer 2024 research team. So it is open to all of our undergraduate and graduate students. All disciplines welcome and encouraged. So if you would like to follow the QR code. It'll take you to the
That's it.
application.
It's
Um,
also on Handshake. If you're a faculty member here and want to share it with your students, please do that. You can find it. We'd love to have you. I think you heard some good testimonials today. How much fun you.
Yes, I will say that we have an amazing amount of alumni and former faculty and staff who would like to talk to students. So we need applicants. So the application is open until April 22nd.
And there are a couple flyers over there if you want to take one on the way out. too.
Yes. I also put some brochures for the special collections and university archives.
You also could donate to the project if you so choose. You can find this on the foundation page. We don't have our own little drop-down menu, but you can write in. You can write, I think if you write in,
Yes.
Oh, good.
So highlighted in the big give this year, April 17th, 24 hours to donate. Joint project of the library and College of Liberal Arts.
so please don't.
Yes.
I also want to say, which I meant to say earlier. You can- find it. Ashley's going to tell you the best way to get there.
So I put some brochures over by the door. But if you go to archives.towson.edu, you can navigate to the Unearthing TU History Project.
And you'll see those interviews. And they really are worth your time, I promise you.
And there are more being added. So I will put another plug in. So alum Marcy Jackson just had our most recent oral history last week. So stay tuned for that oral history to be added to the website. So thank you all. It's just our pictures in case you weren't familiar with the three of us yet.
As well, there would be no project without our student researchers and our people being willing
Yes.
to share their experiences, sometimes painful, but joyous too. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We wouldn't. Thank you all.
Thank
for
all of
coming.
you for coming. Yes.